Hey everybody, it's Dr. Rich Shevner. Welcome back to Writing in Digital Cultures. So, a couple things going on this week for October 27th. We are discussing sustainability and key terms and ideas, and we're going to put that into practice by looking at some sustainability reports more closely. So, Quiz 2 is assigned by the time you see this video. The link will be posted. And then for your activity for the day, you're going to compose with audio. So for our activity hour, you'll be creating a brief podcast segment of a page from one of the 4 big tech sustainability reports. And that's located just above here. So we have Google, Apple, Amazon, and Facebook. On your Slack group channel, you want to tell your group which report you're planning to adapt for sound. And it's totally fine if you want to do the same as others. But you do have to do this project individually. This is so that everybody gets a chance to work with audio. And you want to compose a 1-minute segment. It should include a voiceover of the page, you reading the contents of the page that is, as well as some light music. And in the video I'm showing you now, I'll give you an example of how I've composed that. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. In terms of making a quick podcast segment, first, as I mentioned here, you want to select a page from one of the sustainability reports. Now, for my example, I've selected Google, and really, you're only constructing a 1-minute podcast segment. So it's probably going to be less than a page, or about here, that you're looking to fill up with content. I selected a passage from a few pages down in which they're talking about environmental impact and so forth. And so I think it was actually addressing a global challenge. Yes, that's what I worked with. All right. So once you've selected that, then you want to record a version of that on your phone or computer microphone. So what I did is I took my phone and used a voice memo app and recorded that passage. So it was just a brief paragraph. Now, you're going to probably need to do a little longer because I'm asking you for a minute. You'll notice that mine passage that I read is less than 20 seconds or so. So maybe 2 paragraphs should be sufficient, or a longer paragraph down here or some other place should work. Record it on your voice memo and then email it to yourself, as I say here. Next, you want to visit this link called Blue Dot Sessions. This is a great open access source for using music. A lot of schools and nonprofit radio stations, podcasts, what have you, use this non-commercial music for their storytelling. And once you click on the link, you'll see that there are a few options that are listed here, and they give you a whole sample. So, if I play this, for instance, you'll notice that music does or doesn't come through. Yep, okay, it's actually working. All right, so that played just a bit, and basically you want to try to match that with the tone that you're going for. So if they're talking about climate change, do you want something that's more dramatic? If they're talking about positive results that have been yielded by technology, are you going to work with some kind of positive, upbeat tone? Blue Dot Sessions, again, is really useful, and hopefully it's useful for other projects you're working on. Let's say you're giving another presentation and you want to add some music to it. You have a ton of options here. Again, it comes back to giving credit, and we'll talk about Creative Commons licenses, but for learning purposes, you don't need to purchase a license or anything like that. Just simply go to the download button and click on it there. All right. You want to also download and email that file to yourself. And then for mixing the voice and music track, you will access our remote lab. Now, if you weren't here for last week's class, do go back to the videos above to look at a demonstration for accessing our remote computer lab. That is that we can access now the writing lab through remote services thanks to eServices at York. And I'm going to be demoing Adobe Audition for you all. And really, I'm just giving you the quick and dirty version of using this application because this is an introductory course. When you take Writing 3001, or if you do take that course, or even our 4th level course, we get into these tools more intensely and more deeply. But for this purpose, we're just exploring it, making sure that we know how to access the software remotely and that we know how to put it into practice for a brief exercise. Okay, so let's just pretend that I went to my email already and downloaded these files, and they went to the downloads folder once I've accessed the Computer Labs remote access tools. You are going to click on the Windows button and then scroll down to Adobe Audition, which is actually more near the top than anything. And the nice thing is that this typically loads pretty quickly. Now, there's a lot on here that you can look at. It can be kind of overwhelming, I admit, when you first see it. So what I tend to do first is I'll click on multi-track, and then I'll name my file. So I'll just type in Sustainability Practice Podcast. Okay. And really, I don't need to click on anything else except OK. And this has created a multi-track session for me. Now, I've got the title of it, what have you, and I've got all these tracks that are listed here. I'm only going to be using most likely about 2 of them. So let's just see how that works. And I want to slightly zoom in a bit so that we can see everything. All right, looks good. Now, what you'll click on from there is File, and then Import, and then File. And you can see that there are a few listed here. The track that I've selected from Blue Dot Sessions is Lacal, and then this is my reading track. So I'm going to go ahead and import that so you know what it sounds like. All right, in just a second, so I'll import the other one as well. Okay, so this is all assuming you've listened to what you've recorded and you're ready to import it. Just want to kind of give you the basics in that sense. So Lacal, I'm going to drag that. By clicking and dragging, it'll drop right into the track, and it'll give you a warning that it's not the same sample rate, but for this purpose, we're not so much worried about that. So I just click on OK. Excuse me. And once we play it, we just want to make sure it's working. So let's just check it out. All right. So it sounds pretty good. Then this is my vocal track. So track 2, I can just drag it here at the beginning and play it. Addressing a global challenge. Humanity is consuming natural resources at an astonishing rate. During the 20th century, global raw material use rose at about twice the rate of population growth. Every year. All right. So here's where you get to do some fun stuff. One of the default tools that you have here is what's called the it's basically the move tool, or sometimes it's called a movement tool, and you can move around your files from that point. So clicking and dragging is going to be one of your best friends in this case. And so what I chose to do when I was messing around with this before is I started it at about 10 seconds. So I wanted the music to come in, and then my little paragraph came in. Addressing a global challenge. Humanity is consuming natural resources at an astonishing rate. During the 20th century, global raw material use rose at about twice the rate of population growth. Every year. Okay, so I will post a link to mine, but what you'll notice is that this file actually is a lot longer. This is about a 3-minute track, and you can actually cut that down. So for right there, we can click on what's called the slip tool. And if we go to the edge of it, we can drag it all the way back to exactly 1 minute. Okay. And I'm going to post some more shortcut ideas for you as well in another document. But you can click on what's called the fade out tool. And that's really great because if you want the music to fade out, it might sound a little bit more professional. So I decided to go for it like so. And then my track sounds like this. Play it for you all. All right, here we go.
What the Earth's ecosystems can regenerate in a year.
So, sounds pretty natural the way it fades out, and that's really it, folks. I'm asking you to make those kind of moves when you are making your own brief podcast segment. I'll also have some direction on the time selection tool. I'll post a shortcut as well in the document. But if you click on the time selection tool, you can actually click and highlight any of the tracks. So let's say you didn't like that section, you can highlight it and then simply delete it from there by clicking on the delete button. The slice tool is kind of similar, or sometimes it's called that, but it's the razor tool in this case. And we can just, let's say we have a brief part we don't really like that much. We can click on it and it'll actually cut parts of the track. So if I wanted to mess around with that briefly, I could take this part and mash them together. It may not make sense, but we'll see what it sounds like.
We'll use rows at about twice the rate of addressing a global challenge. Humanity is consuming natural resources at an astonishing rate. Population growth. Every year, humanity consumes far more than what the planet can naturally.
All right, so you might want to remix it in certain ways, but really for me, that doesn't make much sense in the context I'm using it in. But again, those are some really quick ways to get the files ready and to send them out. So I'm going to go ahead and Control Z that a few times so that I can preserve my whole track. Now, when I'm ready to export this, that's the next thing you'll need to do. You've had a few listens, you're pretty comfortable with it. You want to click on File and then Export, Multi-Track Mixdown, and then Entire Session. And this will create a WAV file for you. I've selected it to be under Downloads, so you want to make sure you know where it's actually going so you can find it later and then email it to yourself and then send it to our Slack channel. So we have a couple steps there. So I'll click on OK and then double check that was in fact mixed down. All right, looks like it came through. So I'm looking for that WAV file. And let's just make sure it plays.
Addressing a global challenge. Humanity is consuming natural resources at an astonishing rate. During the 20th century.
Okay. And after that, like as I said, you've got it here. So you want to make sure you go ahead and email it to yourself. For me, I'm going to reply already and go ahead and upload that. So again, I want the WAV file. I don't want this file because that's just the project itself. It's not the actual mixdown. And most likely it'll tell me to use it as a OneDrive link, which is fine. You could probably do it if it's a little larger, but I would just do that to be safe. Make sure it comes through. Just reply to yourself and send it off. Okay. Once you do that, you can download it and put it onto our Slack, and then you've got a copy of it you can refer to later on. Okay, so that is really the basics of using Audition. There's a lot more you can do on that, but again, we're just sampling. We're trying a couple different things to see how digital composing operates across platforms. And this is also a tool you can come back to for your second major project. If you want to make a longer podcast segment of a sustainability report or something like that, you can do that. If you have any questions about what we're doing for that session, please let me know. And I'll also be on the Slack channel if you have any questions then. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye.